how careful does the education minister have to be as this process moves forward to not alienate the boards? Because, I mean, we've already seen that there can be a lot of pushback.
Yeah, it's a tricky issue, and he is going to have to walk that line. I think, as Paula said, that there will be some boards who are quite eager and even ahead of the game on this. There will be others, maybe some in rural areas, that haven't quite thought about this issue a lot, not entirely sure how to deal with it. And they won't want to be pushed too far, too fast. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of deals with that, and whether he will push forward on enforcement. There's a difference, though, here. I think in a lot of those other bills that have driven rural areas in particular crazy, they've had the wild rose to really kind of
that's a really good point.
Fuel the flames of those. Those were easy issues, easy wedge issues for the wild rose. This issue, I'm not so sure is easy for the wild rose. It kind of ties them up in knots in terms of how to handle this. So I think, at least in that respect, Egan won't have too much of the wild rose breathing down his neck on this one.
And it is really interesting, because when you've got something like a land use bill, I mean, Ed Stelmach ran into this, I mean, long before the NDP were in power. The Tories were finding themselves, they would hit these hot button rural issues, and there would be this huge backlash, this huge wellspring of fury. In this case, you can see, I mean, I listened to an interview on CBC of an activist mom from Lethbridge trying very hard to, I'm not homophobic, but, and it was all about parental rights. And so that's the discourse that they're trying to use, which goes back to Ted Morton's, favorite kind of phraseology. This isn't about trans kids. This is about parental rights. This is about parents being informed. That's the lexicon that they're using. The problem is, as Keith alludes to, as soon as you tiptoe up to Lake of Fire, the beach of the Lake of Fire, I am happy to say that we have evolved our political discourse in this province to the point where no legitimate politician wants to come out and gay bash. And I think we should congratulate ourselves for that. It's not that long ago that gay bashing seemed to be like a legitimate political strategy around here. But we have at least got to the point where nobody wants to come out and say that they are opposed to gay kids. So you have to try to code it, and the coded language is parental rights. Well, we want parents to have the choice. We want parents to be informed. And so they're arguing not so much about which bathroom people get to use, but saying, well, if my child has come out to a teacher as trans, I as a parent should have a right to know that.
Right.
And that's the kind of way they're framing it to make it sound softer and more about, the rights of families, and less about discrimination against trans and LGBQT kids in general. So I think, curiously, we're not going to see nearly as much of a backlash about this as about WCB benefits, because the politics, as Keith said, they're daintier.